Hey, this is Darren Flower, and this is another stellar edition of Rock It Up. And today we're going to be talking to a real live producer, and his name is Chris Snow from the Crow's Nest. So make sure you stick around because you're going to learn a lot. Producer, and that's why you're here, right? I mean, you're not here for any other reason, right?
Not that I know of.
All right, you're not here to hang out with me?
Well, that too. But we're gonna hang out and
Okay,
talk.
buds. Okay, great. All right, shut up. Okay, let's get into this. Okay, so we're gonna talk about why an artist needs a producer. Let me ask you this, okay? Why do artists need a producer? Do they even need one?
That's a really interesting question.
I thought so.
Yeah, that's probably why you wrote it, right?
It is. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in most cases, bands do need a producer. You know, of course, there's always the exceptions to the rules. Like some of the veterans and stuff that are doing their own records and stuff. But I think for the most part, it's really important to have a producer because it's like I think the best thing I can compare it to is like like a coach for a hockey team or something, somebody that can stand back and see the whole picture and kind of help guide it along. Like people tend to get lost in their parts a little bit.
Well, and if I can jump in here, and I can because it's my show, okay, from an artist's perspective, collections or parts in said songs and how to improve it, or, just flat out take things out, right?
Yeah.
So it's always good to have that.
Yeah, that's the other side of it too, right? Is like, somebody that can be subjective about it and have that outside perspective. I mean, everybody in the band's always trying to be critical and stuff, but the producer, he fills a lot of roles and stuff, right? But he's gonna be kind of like the bad guy a lot of time, where he's gonna ixnay a lot of parts, and he's gonna tell you when things just aren't happening. He's got to do that, and at the same time be inspiring and keep everybody inspired.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's almost like a coach, like you made reference to, calling plays and getting people to, take the proverbial football and score touchdowns.
Yeah, and it's not like the team members can't play because they're professional players. It's not that they can't play, but like every football, hockey, basketball team has a coach because they just get that perspective on things where, I mean, the individual positions are so busy concentrating on their position, whether it be guitar, bass, drums, sax, vocals, or whatever it is, what everybody else is doing. So that's why I think it's really important that guys have producers and stuff. And, nowadays it seems like a lot of people are, kind of saying, oh, well, what do I need a producer for?
And what do they need a producer for? I mean, bands who do it themselves, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a really good thing. I mean, obviously budgets are tight for a lot of indie bands and stuff, but it goes a long way, like you really need somebody that understands the industry and understands what people are looking for, and also to take the band's vision and interpret it the right way through recording. Because a lot of bands, they might say, oh, well, we want it to sound very live, we want it to be very poppy, and maybe those are right, maybe those are wrong, and you need the producer to see the big picture and say, okay, well, maybe I think that these songs need to be approached this way. Maybe they shouldn't be, so it's kind of up to him to see the big picture and interpret it properly, so that the message and the image and message of the band can be purveyed properly.
Right. Now, it's just my opinion. It's not an actual fact, but in my opinion, I think that every band, artist, singer-songwriter, whatever it be, should have a producer, only because sometimes as an artist, and that's what I am, sometimes you're just too attached to your work that sometimes you're just blinded. You know, you think
Yeah.
everything is amazingly awesome. Not from a songwriter, not everything I'm going to write is going to be awesome, but sometimes a lot of people, they need to be told that. You know,
Yeah.
and the thing with a producer is, you know, they wear many different hats, and one of the things they will do is tell their clients, okay, this song is not so good. You know, you should probably take it off because, you know, it's just kind of.
Music stuff is opinion, but like, you know, it's popular opinion. You know, there's no hard ends to everything. So there's obviously some exceptions to some bands or whatever, but yeah, like you definitely need somebody around to keep you in check.
Mm-hmm.
And the producer, you know, especially nowadays, is filling a lot of roles because, you know, budgets are tight and guys have to multitask and stuff. So a lot of times your producer is your engineer and he is your editor, you know. So yeah, he definitely needs to keep you in check. You know, to kind of disillusion you when you think something's hot and it's not. You know, like I think that's really important, and it, you know, might be, like I said, he's got to be the bad guy sometimes, but somebody has to because you know, like your friends and family, and they're always gonna still tell you they sound great.
Yeah,
and
when
stuff.
your Aunt Marie tells you you're such a great singer, this is such a great song, I mean, that's just her telling you that. But I mean, if you go to a doctor and you smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day and you're, you know, getting sick, he is going to tell you don't smoke cigarettes. And he's qualified to tell you that. So it's in your best interest to listen to him.
Yeah.
You hire a producer for many different reasons, but one of the things is that you're looking for, you know, overall supervision almost, right?
You know, it's not just like supervision, it's like the guidance and making sure it's executed properly, and then plus like you have budgets and stuff that you have to stay within. So, you know, like not just supervising, make sure you don't screw anything up, but you know, like how you execute things. Is it going to be live off the floor? What is going to be live off the floor?
Well, hold on. For the benefit of those who don't know what these terms are, what is live off the floor?
Essentially, live off the floor is, you know, you get a band, you go into the studio, you set them all up. So it's almost like it's pretty much like a live show, and you record everybody playing simultaneously and record them just as they are.
Okay, and then what is tracking?
Tracking is when there's, you do everything separately. You do your drums, you do your, like, traditionally.
You start with the drums first.
Yeah,
and then
traditionally
you
you start with your drums,
okay.
and you do your bass, and
guitar,
you do guitars,
guitar overdubs,
you know, solos and tambourine and all that stuff. That you
triangle,
do your vocals and stuff. So there's like, yeah, triangle that can come at any point in time.
Cowbell, you always need more cowbell.
So there's like a mixture, and obviously there's no hard and fast rules, of course, with this music industry and everything, right? So you can do it any mix of ways where you can do. You know, you can do your rhythm section live off the floor, and then you can do your overdubs and your vocals later, and the producer, from his experience and his interpretation, message, he takes his experience and tries to figure out the best way to come across that. Right? So, and a lot of bands, like, you know, like newer bands, they don't have recording experience, so they really need that. And like, I come across a lot of indie bands that they're like, well, we really are inspired by so and so and so and so and so and so, but we don't know how to do that. And there's still experienced musicians that benefit from producers as well. So it's not like there's ever a point where it's not beneficial. You know, from indie bands to like absolute veterans and stuff. So it's always beneficial to have somebody in a critical position that can sit back and critique the music and give you a different outside perspective on it. At least that's my feelings on it.
Right on, man. Well said. Okay, so moving along, what should somebody look for in a producer? You're a band, you're looking to find a producer. What should you be looking for in said producer?
That's a good question too.
Well, that's why I'm asking it.
100%.
Okay, so you can answer it anytime you feel like it.
Things that they should look for is, I think, they need to really have a good personable relationship with that person, because music to the musicians themselves, as you know, being a musician yourself, is it's very personal. You spend a lot of time working on it. It becomes very close to you, and when somebody just walks in and critiques it, you can be easily offended or just get your guard up right away. So you need to know that this person respects it, and if they're passionate about it and they understand it, and that they can, and you're putting your trust into that person too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big thing, is the trust that you put into that person, because you hear things when you write a song, you hear it in your head a certain way. After years and years of listening to things that inspire you, you hear a riff in your head and you write it, and you hear it, recorded a certain way. You need to trust that the guy that you're putting in charge is going to be true to that image, and and that the end product is.
Well, man, I'm having the best of time talking to you, but we're going to come back and we're going to talk all about something really, really important that some people have no clue what it is, and it's called pre-production.
Oh, God.
And we're going to be back here discussing this on Rock It Up, so stay tuned.
Rock It Up would not be possible without the help from our sponsors, like CFRE Radio. For more information, please visit cfreradio.com. Sherwood Mortgage Group. Longtime friends serving longtime customers. Call Chris D'Souza at 416-884-905-203-0737 or visit nudebuddhatattoo.com. Mississauga Arts Council. Connect, create, engage, support. Find them at MississaugaArtsCouncil.com or on Facebook and Twitter under Miss Arts Council.
All right, we're back here on Rock It Up TV, and we're talking to producer Chris Snow from the Crow's Nest. Okay, so where we left off, we were talking about the role of producer, but now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty over here, man, and I'm excited. We're going to talk about pre-production.
Okay.
Okay, and why is it so important? Maybe I'll talk first.
Oh, you want to answer your own question?
Maybe. I don't even need you on the show. You might as well just get the hell out of here.
Yeah, all right.
No, okay, you stay. You got
Okay.
cool hair. You can stay.
All right.
Okay, pre-production. It is really important because, hopefully you're going to spend thousands of dollars on a really solid recording, so you don't have any time to F this up.
Yeah.
Just pardon my French. Okay? So what you really want is like a really tight blueprint of how to go about recording your songs that you spend, hours and hours and hours, crafting and perfecting, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Now you get a.
All right.
I'm the
so
star of the
just
show.
answer
Okay?
the question for me.
All right.
Then.
I'm just trying to finish my thought here. So again, you want.
There's going to be nothing left for me to
There's
say,
plenty left. Okay. Okay. So again, you want to maybe have a blueprint of how these songs are going to be, and have an idea of how to go about doing it and achieving your goal properly. And this is why you need pre-production, so you can map out what guitars you're going to use for what songs. And maybe I'm saying too much. Let's finally have you talk, okay? Why do we need pre-production?
Well, now that you've already said everything that I have to say,
No, not really.
I agree, thankfully, a lot with what you have to say. Is that it is the best way to put it is it's a blueprint. It's like you don't start building a building without having blueprints. You just can't go into there and just hope that it's all going to fit together.
Okay, so here's a situation. I have 10 songs. I hired you as my producer, okay? So how do we go about making this album? Where do we start?
Well, I think the best thing to do is you just from the very beginning is you just go get your bearings and personally I would go to the band practices and I would listen to where things are at and kind of where everything is sitting, what needs work. Just kind of a rough overview and stuff. And then you get into like, the pre-production nitty-gritty.
So what do we do with pre-production? What exactly does it take?
Well, you start working on drum parts and guitar parts and stuff, and there's a certain amount that personally that I think that you can map out, because remember, pre-production, you're not using you're planning it all out, because as much as you can get prepared ahead of time, the better, because you don't want to be messing around when you get into the expensive studio.
Not when you're paying $800 a day.
No, right?
That's exactly why, right?
The more you can be prepared ahead of time, the better, but there's always going to be a certain amount of magic in the studio. Right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like just things happen.
Right. Yeah,
and until you're really on that like great gear and you're in the ideal listening environment and stuff, it's personally, I think it's hard to say, okay, we're going to use this guitar with this amp and this pickup and da-da-da-da.
But hold on. Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, certain songs you might have to have a different combination of guitar and amps and stuff like that to, accommodate said song, right?
Yeah.
So isn't that where pre-production comes in handy?
Yeah, and like that's fine, and I agree with that and everything, but I still think like when you get in there that like to a certain point things just happen and you have to make decisions on the fly. And that's up to the band, and that's up to the producer. And, pre-production to me is working on the songs themselves and mapping out, okay, all right, how many days are we going to need for this? What's our approach going to be? If we're doing 10 songs, are all these 10 songs going to be the same approach on drums? Or are they going to all be different approaches? Are some of them going to be more roomy? Or some of them going to be more intimate? Are they going to be the same guitar tones and bass tones or something? So it kind of gives you like, happens while you're in there. Because you just never know. I'm sure you've been there yourself where, like you're tracking something in the studio and all of a sudden you just hear something.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, you have the blueprint, but sometimes you go back to that word magic, where it happens and it's like kind of off the cuff, and sometimes you do a guitar take that is something that you wouldn't normally have done, but it was very in the moment and it was inspired, and it turns out really great because the feeling is there.
On a tight budget, sure, you got to go in there and you just got to bang out things the way they are, and some music you just got to bang it out the way it is. But I still think that you just have to leave room for those things to happen, for those fireworks to go off, because that's, that's when like the really cool stuff happens. Is it comes out of mistakes, it comes out of spontaneity, it comes out of just out of the moment. I kind of bank on those things, personally.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I'm having the best time because you were just hanging out here.
But I have to say, though, sorry to interrupt you, though, like...
Don't ever do that again.
Sorry.
It's my show.
But this is a very important point I've actually thought about bringing up.
Okay, go with it.
As much as we talk about pre-production and stuff, I think people need to remember that, as important as production is and stuff, is it's not always getting your hands on every part. It's also knowing when to have your hands off and when to leave things. Like if things are fine, it's like that tough decision where it's like you're getting paid for a job, but you're getting paid to not do anything and basically not F it up, right? Like if if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if you gotta get paid to be the guy to tell people if it ain't broke, don't fix it, then you gotta be that guy. But I just find there's a lot of people that are out there that they just feel, oh well, I'm producing something. Well, I have to I have to touch every part. I have to do something to every part, and then they end up ruining a good thing
Well, that's the
because
thing,
they
too.
can't leave well enough alone.
A lot of producers are control freaks too.
Yeah, and I mean, just because you're producing, doesn't always mean doing something. It means knowing when to not do something, and when to just leave alone and let it be, and when it's fine, and when it's good.
Interesting. I guess when you're a producer, sometimes you get so attached to the project, and you think in your mind what is right, is right, and the band kind of quarrels with you, and you kind of get upset with that, and you feel like they're questioning your integrity, and it doesn't seem like
It's
a
a,
great
it's
situation.
like a whole industry of opinions, and we can look at the history of what's worked and what's currently trending and what's working right now. But I was saying to someone recently, like the Beatles wouldn't be the Beatles if they had just kept doing what everybody else was doing. So you have to sometimes go against instinct, or sometimes just do what you think is right. And sometimes you're battling members about that. Sometimes you're voting. Sometimes it's a whole band voting with the producer, and as a producer, you can't just take the reins and forget about what the band wants. I mean, it's the band that's paying for them, and it's the band's vision, so you can't forget about what's important to them, right? So, I think that's really important as well.
Excellent. Okay, so here's a question, and I don't know if I really agree with this, but I know that there's a lot of bands that are, that feel obligated to go into a studio with like 30 songs, 40 songs, 100 songs, and select the 10 best songs, most killer songs of them all, and put them on an album. I don't know if I agree with that, but what do you think? You being a producer.
Some guys do it, if they got the time to do it. Like I've been in those situations before, like, guys have had the time to do beds for 12 songs or whatever, and then by the end they pick the strongest ones, because it's like you do pre-production and you think, oh, these songs are, man, these are the strongest ones, these are great songs, and then when you get close to mixing, it shifts a little bit and you go, oh wow, like these songs that we didn't think that were as strong, that we're gonna make it, like they end up being the strong ones. So it's good to have options and everything, but once again, I mean, if you have the time, sure, why not have as many, why not go in with as much ammunition as possible? But I just find nowadays and stuff, like, budgets are pretty tight, and a lot of bands are trying to do it on their own, and they don't have a lot of support. Like they're working 9-to-5 jobs, and they're trying to put these albums together and stuff. So you kind of have to decide in pre-production like what you're gonna do, and it kind of sucks that way. But
budgets are really tight, which segues into the next question. I wanted to know, like, I mean, if a band is serious about their career, should they be recording albums in a basement studio?
No.
Why?
I don't think at all. I mean,
you can pump out a really high quality demo.
Yeah, I mean,
but
like
maybe
I keep saying,
recording?
there's no hard and fast rules about any of this stuff, and there are some bands that are recording stuff themselves. I know Thrice, like, as one example, like they do a lot of recording themselves, and those guys they're veterans. They've been doing it for a long time, and it's not to say that it can't be done or anything, but like, I just think for the most part, these guys, they need to, if they really want to get somewhere with their music, they have to invest something into it. And I'm not just saying that like, to plug myself or to like, benefit my own career or anything, because of all people, I'm not like that.
No, you're not.
I'll tell somebody if they can do something on their own, and if they don't need me, then go do it. But it's just a lot of just people don't, and like times have changed now where it's so easy for people to go out and buy a Pro Tools rig or a Cubase rig or whatever it is, and buy a laptop and buy converter or whatever like that, and just people are doing it because it's easy, but like they're musicians first and foremost, and they don't have the training, they don't have the education, and you know what, I've talked to a lot of musicians that actually hate recording themselves, because it takes the creativity out of it, because by the time you're busy setting up a mic, getting the sounds and everything, you're kind of not as inspired anymore.
Well, right on.
So my perspective is just leave that job to the people that are meant to do it.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, bud.
Good times. And next week we're going to have a stellar episode of Rock It Up, so make sure that you keep yourself tuned in, and make sure you keep your ears perked up, because it's going to be great.
Rock It Up would not be possible without the help from our sponsors, like CFRE Radio. For more information, please visit cfreradio.com. Sherwood Mortgage Group. Longtime friends serving longtime customers. Call Chris D'Souza at 416-884-2984. Loretta and Sherilyn Flower at Remax Realty Enterprises. For more information, please visit flowerteamrealestate.com or call 905-822-2200. Nude Buddha Tattoo Studio, located at 42 Bronte Street South, Milton, Ontario. Call 905-203-0737 or visit nudebuddhatattoo.com. Mississauga Arts Council. Connect, create, engage, support. Find them at mississaugaartscouncil.com or on Facebook and Twitter under Miss Arts Council.